Hello, everyone, and welcome. You have chosen the SCS City Sports Podcast, your destination for local sports news, be it high school, be it professional, or whether you just want to listen to us ramble on about professional wrestling or old Seinfeld quotes or crazy movies that we all like. Welcome to the SCS City Sports Podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at Gary Thacker Insurance over at 2382 Battlefield Parkway. You can reach them at 706-866-8283. Also, the Chattanooga Flower Market, 8016 East Brainerd Road, 423-899-2440. Phil's Primetime Pizza down in beautiful Chickamauga, Georgia, 122 Gordon Street. That's 706-375-4448. Our good friend Greg Payne, host of Restricted to the Dugout with Greg Payne and the Payne Mortgage Team. You can reach them at 423-645-9404 for all of your mortgage needs. And finally, Choo Choo Barbecue, who make it possible for us to bring you the scoreboard on Friday nights. The Choo Choo Barbecue of Chickamauga scoreboard. You can reach them at 12960 U.S. Highway 27 at 706-375-7675. And as Ringo Rob likes to say, you don't know Q until you know Choo Choo. We also want to say a special thank you to Matthew Mays and the good friends and members of Jupiter Coyote, one of our favorite bands, and they provide the music for the show. Those guys have always been great to us, and we hope you guys will reach out and try to check out their music as well. So sit back and relax and hold on, and we'll see where we get to. And welcome, everybody, to this Friday night edition of the SCS City Sports Podcast, episode 19, for those of you keeping track. Rusty, Scott, and Rob here live in Studio X talking about this week's sporting events. Gentlemen,
going on this week?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. There is tale of a fairly important football game being played on Sunday. We have had a blockbuster, I don't know if you'd still call it a blockbuster because he's aging, but a big NBA trade, but it definitely shifted potentially the balance of power in the West. We've got that.
LeBron takes over the
all-time
and again,
points lead.
He's going to go another 2, 3, 4 years, probably 3, and what that number will probably be time he ends it. I mean, we're looking at another 40 years before somebody breaks that. Probably.
I mean, it could be 45,000 points. That's the record I thought would never be broken. I thought it would never, ever be broken, and he broke it.
Because it was a big one, yeah. It was a big one.
But and again, I'm not a LeBron hater, never have been, nor will I ever be. But Scott and I have had this conversation a million times. He plays in a completely different era. If Michael Jordan had played in this modern era where they can't get within, an eyelash of him, how many points? Or Kobe, had Kobe played his entire career in the reffing system that has been the last 3 or 4 years, I mean, Kobe Bryant would have scored 70 points a game.
Well, and I saw where Lawrence Taylor said this the other day, that he does not consider Brady the GOAT. He considers Joe from the Niners.
Joe Montana.
Because he's talking about the era that he's gotten the privilege of playing in.
I just think that I think that...
And Mahomes and them may break any of his records because of
newly minted NFL MVP Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, as they continue, he's talented, but as they continue to
but you got to deal with his wife and brother.
Stretch those
not as much this year.
Stretch those rules out.
Yep.
So that they can play like that.
I was thinking about this the other day. I mean, yes, Tom Brady's considered the GOAT because he was on. I'm not going to say he won 7 Super Bowls. He was on teams that won 7 Super Bowls.
I agree.
Because I agree. Quarterbacks get way too much credit and way too much blame. But what does he do that's better than anybody else?
Nothing.
He's fairly accurate.
Yeah.
But he couldn't run. To me, he was a facilitator. He was like Joe Montana.
I'll give you that. I just think that
Montana played in a different era.
He did. But he didn't. Brady's not the most deadly accurate quarterback. Nope. He doesn't have a great long pass.
Nope.
I think he lost that some.
He just took what the defense gave him.
You know what the big difference in Tom Brady and other quarterbacks is? He protects the football as good or better than probably anybody to ever play that position.
He manages the game.
He is, but he doesn't throw picks.
And let me say this: I saw this the other day. With Gronk being his leading receiver of all time, Welker and
Edelman,
all short-ranged guys.
Oh,
maybe yards after catch.
The greatest move the Patriots ever made was signing Wes Welker. Mm-hmm. I mean, if that move there won them another 2 or 3 Super Bowls. Yeah. I mean, that was Brady's outlet.
Well, they only had Moss that one year that was that stretched the field type guy. Mm-hmm. But go back and look at where all his receptions and yards came from up there. It came from just 5-yard dump passes.
And he lost a year because of that one knee injury. But it was funny. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. I'm like, but what did he do better than everybody other than?
Well, and I'm a little bit like that too, Scott. He's not my favorite player. By no means. Yeah. And I think Lawrence Taylor's being outspoken when he talks about that, but he's also talking about if he played in my era, he wouldn't have those numbers.
And that's why I've said you cannot compare quarterbacks or from any sport from different eras because the game's completely changed. You can compare Montana to Elway and Marino and Aikman. You can't compare them to Brady and Manning and people like that.
But then and that too, it goes back to that whole thing of where did they wind up and what did they have around them?
Yeah.
Because I will argue till I'm blue in the face, Dan Marino on a team. Example. If you'd have put Dan Marino on that 90s Cowboys team with Michael Irvin and that offensive line in front of him with the amount of time they gave him to throw.
Or even the Niners.
Or that Niners team with that West Coast offense. Yeah, if he was there, how many Super Bowls does he win?
And he's a perfect example to bring that up with.
John Elway. I mean, Elway got his late when they finally had a running attack. If it hadn't been for Terrell Davis going to Denver, John Elway never wins a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
A lot of it had to do with the system that you played.
Terrell Davis ran for 2,000 yards.
I know. I mean, the thing about Brady that is ridiculously frustrating is just that it's just a workman's effort.
Yeah.
It's not spectacular. There's no reason why he would ever be a league MVP. He's a bus driver at best. And I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be in the conversation because just on the fact that the man wears 7 Super Bowl rings puts him in the conversation. For a quarterback, that's the matrix.
So
yeah, I mean, for a quarterback.
He's the greatest game manager I've ever seen.
But Rob even brought it up. I mean, that man lived and died in the middle of the football field. Mm-hmm. Very rarely. You go back and look,
with
and I bet you.
Receivers that sacrificed getting their heads knocked off, too.
I would bet you that less than 30% of his total completions came on the outside.
Oh, probably less than that.
I mean, he lived between the hash marks. Mm-hmm. Whether it was, whether it was Gronk, whether it was the murderer, whether it was Wes Welker. I mean, everything was, even Danny Woodhead and running backs out of the backfield. Everything was between those hash marks.
Sure, that was nothing but a long handoff.
Yeah.
But other than Deion Branch, that was really his only deep threat.
Well, that one year they had Stallworth and Moss, and still even then that's when Welker got all the catches.
Yeah.
Because the other
concussions.
Two. Yeah.
They paid the price.
Yeah, they did
for playing that role.
Well, I mean, look at Danny Amendola. Danny Amendola goes to New England, plays great, but I mean, he didn't last very long because you got to be willing to take the hit.
Well, those guys had great hands. They had small bodies, and they sacrificed.
Yeah, they took a beating
to have that be that role. Now there's a lot of Scott. There's a lot of records that eventually fall, and the one that fell this year, 40 years out, you thought it wouldn't happen, but the shortstop for the Orioles,
Cal Ripken.
That one won't. That one.
No,
that one won't ever be broken
because nobody wants to break that.
No, because you're going to manage your superstars' output way different. Better than that.
Yeah, nobody wants that record.
No.
And I don't think the career home run record ever be broken again.
I don't think it will either.
It takes a long time to
well,
do that.
I'll tell you guys.
And being consistent for a long time.
You can say I'm crazy if you want to, but I think Nolan Ryan's strikeout record will never fall.
Oh, no, it won't.
I don't think it. I mean, I just watched
any of the pitching longevity records,
and
because nobody can throw 6 innings.
Right,
that's right.
And let's put it this way: if you have Netflix at home, folks, and here's a free plug for Netflix. I hate to be this way,
and the things that Bob Gibson did in his day, they won't match that.
If you haven't watched the documentary about Nolan Ryan, you have absolutely missed out. They chronicle his entire career, and that dude threw the first pitch out a week or two ago
85
at 85 miles per hour.
And
at 64, I think is how
he's like 70 something.
Yeah, 85 miles an hour.
He was 43 when he threw his last no-hitter.
You imagine being like the first baseman that goes, "No, man, I'll go up there and catch this one," and that heater comes in at you.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
I didn't hear that.
85 miles an hour.
That's comical.
He smacks the mitt, and some guy goes, "Damn it! I didn't think it was coming that hard."
I didn't put my mask on.
Yeah.
It's funny you brought Bob Gibson. I saw.
Oh,
this,
that's
and I was going to.
Well, those numbers were crazy.
This is innings pitched per game by Bob Gibson in 1968 when he had the 112
like
ERA.
8.4 or something crazy.
7. That start the year.
Yeah.
Then 9, 12, 11, 8.
The manager would be fired if he did that.
Oh.
9.2, 88, 99, 999, 999, 9999, 11, 99, 999, 10, 8, 9, 8, 8,
and we're
God.
paying aces of staff
6 innings,
$40 million
6
to
innings.
give us 6.
Yep.
Give me 5.5 and get your pitcher right.
So in the Ryan documentary, Bobby Valentine.
Here it is. July 1968. 12 starts, 12 complete games, 12 wins, 8 shutouts, 6 runs allowed.
God. So Bobby Valentine's in this documentary, and they talk about
granted,
that
was on a higher mound, 2 inches higher.
Him and the pitching coach for the Rangers at the time, because at that time Nolan was like 40. It was about 41, 42 when he made the move to the Rangers. They were terrified of him. And the last thing in the world they ever wanted to do was be the guy that had to go out and take the ball from him on the mound.
Yeah.
Because they basically said that he would start talking by the time they got to the first baseline.
Oh, yeah.
That I don't know why in the hell you're coming out here because you ain't getting this damn ball. All said that they would baseballs as to who had to go take him out because nobody wanted to do it. I mean, and he said, he's like, when I got in there to pitch, I got in there to pitch. I got in there to throw the whole game. That's what I expected to do, and that's what I intended to do. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, y'all think about it, man. 7 no-hitters, and he didn't throw the 7th one until he was, 46 years old, 45, something like that?
He was 43.
Still.
Pitching for the Rangers in 93.
Yeah.
So that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So he's in his early 70s now, and he's still throwing at 85.
And let me bring up something. Two other should be Hall of Famers, and Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, still performing at that type of level at that age, and they couldn't do it because it was steroids. Now, allegedly steroids, and neither one of them were proven by no means. But that's where we went with those Hall of Famers, or should be Hall of Famers. Yeah. But we didn't do that with Nolan Ryan.
Well, that's what happens when you give the voting to a bunch of fat white guys that never laced up a mitt.
It's the worst.
I mean,
it's the worst case of folks being in charge of something that you could ask for.
If you're a likable guy,
because they're putting people in
yes.
that are not Hall of Famers and leaving people out.
Scott Rowland, anybody?
He's good, but
he's good.
Is he as good as Dale Murphy?
No.
You look at the numbers;
I mean,
were the same. But Dale Murphy had 2 MVPs,
3 MVPs.
So yeah, there's your difference. If you need a tiebreaker, the damn guy won 3 MVPs.
Yep, on a team that was awful.
Yeah, so
awful.
Yeah. Well, you know,
carried them to
what did
he title.
What did he he played in the postseason once or twice?
He got him there in 82.
82 and 85. Yeah,
83.
82 and 83 back to back. Yeah, I mean, and you take.
I don't think he ever got out of the cellar any other night.
You take him off that Braves team.
He put tickets in
the
stands.
Every kid that grew up in this area, if Dale Murphy wasn't your favorite baseball player, you weren't a baseball fan.
Still is to this day. And I don't even like the Braves anymore. He's still my favorite player.
You know, you just
always will be.
the reason I think the Ryan record is safe is because, number one, I don't think there's a pitcher out there that can have the longevity that he had, not throwing at the velocity. I mean, that man was, that arm, let's just be honest, that right arm was touched by God, plain and simple, because I can't even think of a time, there was one time his entire career that he was injured, and that was at the very end.
Yeah.
Injuries, it finally ended it.
Well, there was another golden arm down there, too, in J.R. Richard, but, unfortunately he has a stroke, and he doesn't get to go on to have that type of a career. He had that arm, though.
Yep.
Those two on the same staff. Jeez, man.
Let's use this.
Well, hell, the 69 Mets had him and Seaver, and who was the other one? There was three on that staff. Because Ryan wasn't even a starter. He was like a relief pitcher, and they brought him in on a whim at some point to start, and he wound up. I know Seaver was on that team.
Yeah,
and here's your good example. Last year, with pitch count being down, the left-hander for the Dodgers, Scott,
Kershaw,
yeah,
through 7 had a no-hitter. And he got yanked out of the game.
Yeah,
because we just can't.
Well, we got to the count. I mean, we can't.
To the count.
Yeah, we can't risk you.
Can't go no further.
You can't throw those other 30 balls.
See, that's why those things are safe.
Yeah, Tom Seaver, Jerry Koosman, Don Cardwell, and Gary Gentry. Then they also had
Nolan wasn't even listed as a starter.
No, he's not even listed on the team.
He was.
You're talking about the Mets.
69 Mets.
He was on that team.
Yeah.
That's what I thought too, but for some reason he's on this list. Now,
I think Seaver was looked at as the ace.
Oh yeah, he was the ace.
Now this roster. Let me go to this site because this one I don't know what site this was. These people.
You mean to tell me he threw 100 and they still didn't think he was good enough to throw in those days?
Well, the reason he wound up with the Angels was because the Mets couldn't figure out what to do with him because he was still wild as hell, and they didn't. I mean,
he was on that.
They didn't know what to do with him.
Well, Glavine said many times and listened to him talk about when he commentates for the Braves, and I love to listen to him because I know he's being honest. Maybe that's why he's not getting to do it as much because the Braves don't like anybody that's being brutally honest about things. They pull them off the air. But he was talking about how so many of these guys pitch with maximum effort every pitch, and that's why that they can't go and win 300 games because they won't be out there long enough.
Yeah, break down your arm. I heard a trivia question. I was going to see if you guys knew it.
Is it the one you posted today?
No, I'll tell that one later.
I was going to say, because I definitely want to know the answer.
Only 3 players in Major League history were number 1 overall draft picks and made the Hall of Fame.
Major League history, number 1 overall draft pick made the Hall of Fame.
1 overall draft pick.
Chipper Jones is one of them.
Chipper Jones is one of them.
Yeah, didn't know that.
Ken Griffey
is
Junior. Yeah, Ken Griffey Jr.
Yep.
That'd be
the first one
be somebody before him.
Was before them. I'll tell you the year. I don't think it'll help.
Is it Winfield?
No. It was in
because he wasn't number 1.
It was in 1977.
77. Oh.
And a bit of maybe kind of a controversial Hall of Fame pick.
But he was a first round pick.
Number 1 pick.
Number overall. 1 pick overall, 77. Controversial Hall of Famer.
Was he a Yankee?
Controversial, but no, he wasn't a Yankee, but he played with a couple different teams.
When you say it, I'll say okay.
77.
Probably best known with the White Sox.
Tim Raines?
Nope.
Harold Raines.
Baines. Yeah, Harold Baines.
And Harold Baines, and he might not have been a clear cut. He might not have been a clear cut.
Wow.
To a lot of people, but I think he had pretty good numbers.
Harold had good numbers.
He was a designated hitter.
Yeah.
But he never played in the field, or at least didn't for most of his career.
Yeah. He gave Dan Patrick one of his Silver Slugger awards.
He was a pretty good hitter.
Yeah, he was.
It was one of those. Again, I remember when he went in the Hall of Fame, I was like,
could have been a light.
Well, listen. So as a high school teacher of a certain age, we start talking about sports sometimes in class with a few minutes left. I got a lot of boys, teenage boys that watch sports, and they ask me, Coach, did you see so-and-so play? Yep, saw so-and-so. What was it like? What was, how good was he? And inevitably, if you get to baseball season, you get them to asking the baseball questions. And I
stand in against them.
And I had a kid the other day, and they said, "Coach, did you watch a lot of Barry Bonds' career?" And I said, "I watched all of Barry Bonds' career." And they said, "Okay, just be honest with us, Hall of Famer or no?" And I was like, "Oh, it's not even." I was like, he was a Hall of Famer before he ever went to the Giants.
He might be one of the top 5 hitters that's ever played the game.
Now I'll say this, and we all say we talk about
contact.
what we saw. Okay, I remember Stump used to always be an ooh and on about Mickey Mantle. Well, Mickey Mantle was done as time I was starting to watch.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to see Mickey Mantle's honest. But Barry Bonds, without question, was the best left-handed hitter I ever seen swing the bat.
Yep.
And I'm talking about prime.
One of the hardest outs.
Oh, just almost impossible. And the guy that mirrored him from the right side in his prime was Albert Pujols. He was the exact same.
In his prime, yes.
I'm going to make you throw it in the zone, and when you throw it in the zone, I'm going to hit it as far as you can go find it. But that was in his prime.
Yeah.
His prime left him when he probably left when he left St. Louis. His prime probably left him.
I'll say that from the era that I grew up in, my favorite guys to watch hit, in no particular order, Ken Griffey Jr., because I think that's the most beautiful swing I've ever witnessed. It's not even close.
And maybe the all-around best ball player that ever seen
If you never saw him in person,
good Lord.
Just pull up his YouTube.
Barry Bonds, because
stare at that.
Barry Bonds, because you can look at his career in eras. The 40-40 era early, the elder statesman of baseball later, when he's still just smacking everything out of the park. There was a lot of eras to him. Wade Boggs was somebody I loved to watch hit, because that dude could sit and foul pitches off forever.
Tough out.
But
just like Gwynn.
Tony Gwynn.
That's the best one.
I sent this to our pool league team the other day.
And who was those two prior to that? Rod Carew.
We hadn't talked about this on the show, but Scott and I talked about this the other night. So Tony Gwynn could have gone for his last 1,199 at-bats.
I saw that stat. That's silly.
And still bat 300 for his career.
Yeah.
I saw another one. Pete Rose could come back and get 750 straight hits, and Tony Gwynn would still have a higher career rate.
Good God. I mean, this
here's the other stat. I think I ran it by you. I don't know if you heard this one. He had more hit games.
Yeah.
4 hit games.
4 hit games.
Like 45 than he did games with multiple strikeouts. 44.
Yeah, and multiple meaning 2.
That's pretty stout. I mean, nobody could get him out.
God Almighty, his record against the Braves, 3 aces of Glavine, Smoltz, and Maddox is foul. I mean, the rest of the league looks at that and goes, "Good Lord, what is this guy do?" I mean,
it's like a combined 370, 380 or something.
Yeah, I mean, I saw something with Maddox, and Maddox was like, I couldn't ever get this guy out.
Against Maddox.
Yes,
when you ask somebody, and Ted Williams was the person that stated this. Somebody asked, "What is the number one asset to being a hitter?" He said, "Eyesight."
Absolutely.
And now I think people would say different things in today's time, and meant to say eyesight, because really eyesight is something. You can have great mechanics and
Tony Gwynn
and all
was
that
the first
stuff.
one that I know that would do the eyesight training. He had that thing. It's a game now. I don't know if it's the same type of thing, but you can play it at Dave & Buster's. It's board with all these lights, and they light up, and you have to hit them. He was doing that, or some version of that, where he had to touch the lights, or he had wore something. He had to look at and see when they.
Well, you can't help but tell me that didn't help him in a baseball.
Of course, it did.
He was one of the first players to actually get videotape on pitchers, and he would study the next pitcher every single day leading up to the first pitch. He would study those tapes over and over and over and over again, looking for tendencies, looking for, where he likes to put this, where he likes to do on this count, where he likes to do on that count. And then he just sat there and waited for his.
Well, I think I told you this once, that they were interviewing Roger Clemens a few years back, and he talked about how he called his game by the way he looked through the glove.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
there
was a knew that, but the other side didn't.
I saw something.
Astros hadn't picked up on it yet.
Yeah, I saw something the other day, and there was a guy, and when Randy Johnson went into the Hall of Fame, I'm trying to remember who it was. I want to say it was like Jesse Barfield or somebody like that. But there was somebody that hit 4 home runs off Randy Johnson in his career. And he went to watch Randy be inducted in the Hall of Fame, and he had his son with him. And he went up to shake Randy's hand, and Randy looked at the son and said, "Your dad hit 4 home runs off me in his career." And he goes, "I don't know how in the hell you ever did it." And the guy goes, "Randy, I've never told you this a single time." He said, "But you tipped your pitch every time you threw it." And he said, "No, I didn't." And he goes, "Yep, you did." And he goes, "Show me how you threw your fastball." And Randy held his glove up. And he goes, "Okay." He said, "Now show me how you throw your slider." And he held his glove up a completely different way. He goes, and he took pictures of it with his phone and showed him. And he said, "All I did was wait for you to throw the slider." And he said, "I knew it was coming."
Well, because he threw nearly 100 or better, and that's hard to.
I mean, a poor goose or pigeon or something found that out the hard way in spring training. But I mean that's the thing. I
don't think that was spring training. I think it was a real.
No, it was spring. It was spring training. Arizona. Yeah, it was in Arizona. You look at it. I love the game of baseball because it's. I mean, Scott will tell you. Me and him will sit and talk about this crap for hours upon end because I love the history of the game. It has the most beautiful history.
Yeah, baseball of all the sports carries
all the weird characters and just the stuff that you couldn't make up.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch that Ken Burns series and afterwards you walk. Like I'll tell you a good example. Like this week. So when I do the morning announcements with my kids, we do a thing called Today in History. So I look up every day. I look up on History Channel what happened in history that particular day, and we will usually list it. So the other day, we do Today in History, and it was the day that Satchel Paige was nominated for the Baseball Hall of Fame. And so we were talking about Satchel Paige, and the kids were asking me, about him and stuff. We were just sitting in class, and I said, "Well, I'll tell y'all the best Satchel Paige story I've ever heard."
I know the exact one.
And they were like, "Well, what was it?" And I said, "Okay, so Satchel Paige's first baseman in Kansas City's name was Buck O'Neill. Well, Buck O'Neill was kind of Satchel's handler on the road. Whenever he would go, he would kind of make sure that he at least got back to the hotel at night, things like that. Satchel was a notorious partier. He had a woman in every town, and he had a wife at home. Well, they were like in Chicago or somewhere, and this particular thing happened. And Satchel had met him a woman at the bar, and he invited her back to his hotel room. So he goes back to his hotel room, and Mrs. Page happens to show up. While he's in the shower, she opens the door, and Satchel yells out, "Is that you, Nancy?" Well, Mrs. Page's name most certainly was not Nancy, and she was not happy, and she began to illustrate this unhappiness with the situation about the time that Buck happened to knock on the door to check on Satchel to make sure that he made it in. He walks in the door, and Satchel Paige sees him and goes, "Oh, there you are, Nancy. I've been waiting on you to get here." And he called him Nancy for the rest of their lives. If they ever saw each other, Buck O'Neill to Satchel Paige was Nancy.
Good story.
Yep.
Good story.
There's another one. I can't remember which batter it was.
Oh, that's the Harmon Killebrew story, man.
It was Harmon.
It was it's a barnstorming. The Negro League barnstorming team against the Major League All-Stars. Satchel Paige is pitching against Harmon Killebrew, who's at the times one of the best hitters in the league.
Well, lookout.
Satchel winds up and just heaves the first one by him, smacks him it. Killebrew never takes the bat off his shoulder, looks back at it like, "What in the hell was that?" Satchel,
a good old number one.
They call, as he called it, Long Tommy is what he called his fastball. So he throws Long Tommy a second time, right down the middle, probably 102, 103, and Killebrew again never takes the bat off his shoulder.
2 number ones.
Strike 2. Rears back, throws the third one, the catcher catches it, and the umpire doesn't see it. Looks around like, "What the hell?" And Harmon Killebrew turns around, looks at the ump, and goes, "Sounded like strike 3 to me." And he walks out of the batter's box back to the dugout. And I'm like, now that's, that's dominance.
Yeah.
And that's someone there's you have your wish list of people you would have loved to have saw in person. That's one of the top ones. Bob Feller is another one. I would like to have saw Bob Feller. You hear the stories about that he was throwing 100+ in the 1940s. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see Josh Gibson hit a home run. They say that Buck O'Neil described it as the crack of his bat was a completely different sound than anything you'd ever heard.
Well, and everybody agrees that's got any wits about them about a sport. It is very difficult to judge eras.
Yeah.
They were breaking down that about LeBron this week. Yes, he's phenomenal. Yes, he averaged this over a long period of time. But it's, again, we know that the game changed from when the Lakers and the Celtics played each other, and you push somebody into the third row when they had a layup.
And then you jump up and beat hell out of each other, and you go back and play a few more points after that.
That was the game then, and that's not the game now.
How many
Rambis versus McHale.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
How many times did you see Bill Laimbeer throw hands with somebody, or Rick Mahorn, or any of the Detroit Bad Boys back in those days?
They did not give up easy baskets by pride.
If you were going in the paint, you were going to feel it.
I heard they scored like 113 points a game this year or something like that on average.
God Lord.
And back in the the 90s and stuff, I mean, if you scored 90,
oh my God!
Good.
Some of those, you go back and you look at some of those Knicks Bulls games when it was like 85-78 or something. I mean, and they just beat the living hell out of each other. I mean, John Starks, that dude, they pushed that dude around like a rag doll at times.
You're probably going to get a concussion.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially if you had to go against Cartwright.
Well,
good Lord.
And again, the guards didn't do that.
No.
Michael could elevate maybe if he had a running start.
Yeah, but he had to remake his body.
I mean, the rest of them did that.
You go back and you watch The Last Dance, and when they got beat that one year by the Pistons, and they got beat out of the playoffs, Michael went back and remade his body in the offseason because they beat the living mess out of him.
I heard Laimbeer say one time, he said, we had Mahorn, we had Buddha, James Edwards. He said we had 18 fouls and we were going to use every damn one of them.
And they had
Rodman. I mean,
before even Rodman showed up there. I mean, they just
Let me ask you about one more, and I'll give you this twist on it. Is Jack Nicklaus's record, even though we saw Tiger at one time, we thought we'd get it. Now I don't think most of us think that's in the cards.
Yeah.
But because there's a split, Rusty, in golf, and and good golfers went this way, and good golfers stayed here.
Yeah.
Okay, but you eliminated all those golfers that are playing against each other as many times as they would, sharing equally maybe some of these majors. Does that make that good golfer that's still left over here? If he's that guy.
I don't think. I mean,
or is that guy not here right now?
Number one, I don't think that guy's here right now for one. But number two, I don't think that record ever falls. I don't think. That's the thing. I mean, and that's
but even split that up.
And see, there's another thing right there. You take a set of irons, woods, and balls from today.
Big difference.
And you hand that equipment to Jack during that run, and how many majors does he win with that equipment?
Yeah.
I mean, people forget he did that with pea-head drivers and little bitty tiny blades, and he carved the middle out of those things there was.
But could you not argue this? That there wasn't as many people like him out there as a competitional standpoint.
He played against some of the greatest of all time.
But he played against like 5 guys.
5 or 6. Yeah. Every once in a while another guy would show up for like a year or two and then kind of fall off the wayside. Tiger played more great players than Jack did, but Tiger just intimidated the hell out of him, and it wasn't the same. Now, everybody can hit the ball 350 yards. Everybody can spin it off the back of the green. Nobody's afraid of anybody else.
And I think we all agree. If Tiger's world hadn't have changed when it changed, then he probably would have gotten it by now.
Well, and
it set him back, and injuries set him back.
But at the same time,
a couple times. I mean, if he kept that same swing, he probably would have.
But at the same time, you can go back and say, the European invasion of the PGA Tour had a lot to do with Jack's winning, curtailing a little bit for a few years the way it did with, Seve Ballesteros came in and was on fire. Greg Norman came in and was on fire. There was an infusion.
And those guys were a little bit on the back end of Jack's.
And that's what I'm saying. But Jack had guys coming in at the backside. He won the Masters in '86 when he was 46 years old.
He found lightning in the bottle.
But that's the crazy thing. Just a few years later, at 60-something years old, hell, he's on the first page of the leaderboard on Sunday with like 5 holes to play. At one stretch, he led the tournament with like 3 holes to play, I think it was. But he faced guys that were iconic, and they were, the Watsons, the Ballesteros, the Trevinos, those guys, especially later in his career when those guys were coming up young, and they were the Tiger Woods of their day. But Scott's exactly right. Tiger did things that all you got to do is watch that highlight from that nighttime match a few weeks back. There's a highlight that's just came out, and they didn't play it on national TV. Somebody recorded it with their cell phone. And Tiger lines up, and he goes, "Hey, y'all, watch this." And he lines up to hit this big, giant roping hook. He aims way the hell out to the right just because he wants to prove that he can do it, I guess. No reason. He could have hit it straight down the middle of the fairway for no reason. And you hear Jordan Spieth go, "I've been wanting to see this in person my entire life."
Just see that big draw.
And Tiger just hits this big, ginormous draw that slings out there, curves its way back in, lands right in the middle of the fairway, and you hear them both go, "Good Lord."
Well, he needs to do that more often, because I always said this, when the guy was number one, as long as he was number one,
yep,
he missed more fairways.
Oh, yeah.
But now the second
shot...
But
it was because he blew through them.
The second shot... and the ability to putt clutch was...
the 160-yard pitching wedge.
Well, he took the second shot that most people were putting it back in play.
Yeah.
And he's up there on the dance.
I will tell you that what I like about him now, my favorite part about still watching him play now, is he has embraced his role as the elder statesman / older brother to JT and to Spieth and to Rory and all these guys.
And has he given up on those last three?
But he opened his life up to be friends with those guys, which is something he would have never done in the past. He lets them be a part of Charlie's life, and he lets them cut up with Charlie out there on the... Being able to watch that and watch him make... one of the coolest things that I've seen recently...
Which that makes me believe he gave up on the three.
He had a great... Couples had a really good senior round, like here just a few weeks back. And apparently there's a group message that is Tiger, Freddie, JT, Rory, and I think there's like 2 other ones in it. And they were blowing Freddie's phone up the whole way down the stretch, sending him, "Dude, you're fucking killing it." Oh, sorry. Sorry about that, folks. But you know what I'm saying.
I didn't know they talk like that.
No, they really did. Yeah. But they're having fun with him the whole way down the stretch. And Freddie's like, "Well, these guys have made me feel 30 years younger. These guys have made me feel a part of this group." Tiger would have never been that guy 20 years ago. Mark O'Meara was the only person on tour that even had anything to do with him. You remember you and I went to the Tour Championship, and what did the guy tell us? The 2 most disliked players on tour were Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods.
Yeah, but they had the biggest crowd. They were 7 people deep. As soon as he teed off, it was just like this massive... It was like an electronic football game. Everybody just went around with him. And so we just stood at the second tee and just watched, and then
right away from us.
I'm making motions with my hand.
Think about the guy that or woman or whoever that designed that game and how much money they made on that vibration.
Spent all that time putting those intricate little plays out there, getting your guys set up, hit the button, and they all got sucked into this vortex on the thing, and then they... All
right, so real quick before we go to the Super Bowl, big trade this week. KD moves from the Nets to the Suns.
I'm not a basketball
and
fan.
Kyrie moves from the Nets to the Mavericks.
I'm not a basketball fan, but what a debacle that whole thing was. But I think that biggest debacle was was Kyrie.
Oh,
He stirred that. He stirred that too. It just wasn't going to work.
I had a kid today say, "Mr. Parkhill, I can't wait to see Kyrie with the Mavericks." I said, "You better enjoy it this season."
Yeah.
I said, because he wears his welcome out after about one.
He'll be done with it. You know,
Luka will have enough of him in about 6 months.
You're right. When Luka's jumps down to scoring 16 points a game because somebody over there is trying to score.
It's like having Russell Westbrook.
That's what it'll turn into.
I mean, but
Don't ever trust a Duke basketball player.
Amen. But KD going to Phoenix,
Tatum.
a 3-man rotation of KD, Devin Booker, and CP3 with still some spring in those legs.
Yeah.
Getting late in that game.
Well, he is,
Really
but he don't have to be what he used to be.
No,
He's
he don't
got
have
youth
to.
that he can kick to.
No, he doesn't have to score
if
20.
Durant's healthy, if he's coming off,
And that's
a bit of
another
an
thing.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
But that's gonna be a tough.
I mean, I still
team.
think
That's gonna be a tough team to do.
I still think
You
the
almost-
Celtics are the team to beat, especially in the East, and they might be the team to beat in the league. But of course, I'm a bit of a homer when it comes to that.
Yeah.
If you can't tell by the Jason Tatum jersey hanging above me, behind me.
Again, don't ever trust.
But you know what? The funny thing about that's Oakland A's colors, right?
It is. That's special edition St. Patrick's Day jersey there with the gold around it. So
0 for loser.
yeah.
All right. So you may get the question again.
Okay.
Here's the question. Oh, by the way, I should mention this. Local Heritage Girls Soccer shut out Rome tonight 5-0. They are 4-0 and have outscored their opponents 31-0.
Good Lord.
Dang.
Yeah. 31-0. Zoe St. John scores again. She already has 11 goals this season.
They need to go to Belgium and play.
Okay, so here we go.
Okay.
5 colleges, and only 5 colleges, have produced a Super Bowl winning quarterback and President of the United States.
Michigan.
Michigan's one.
Yeah. Super Bowl.
Michigan, obviously, Tom Brady and Gerald Ford.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, not on the list.
Not on the list. Wow. Okay.
Texas.
Texas, not on the list.
That president.
2 of them, one of them I think is obvious. Another one's probably kind of obvious. And then the other 2 are kind of, whoa.
I mean, that'd be too far back.
I'm gonna have to go to California and say Southern Cal.
Nope.
No, hang on. Let me.
The fact that you're not getting one of
I'm
these,
walking backwards in my head. Hang on a minute. I'm walking backwards in my head.
I can't believe you haven't got one of them.
Well, I'm thinking
Super Bowl quarterback.
Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Winning quarterback.
Super Bowl
and
winning
a president.
quarterback
And a president. Both alums.
and a president. Naval Academy.
Naval Academy, yes. Roger Staubach,
yeah.
Jimmy Carter.
And Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter was Naval Academy.
Yeah. West Point.
No, he was in
No, I'm saying
Oh, Army,
West
no.
West Point. No Army.
I must have been sick.
Army
that
didn't
week.
have quarterbacks.
That's true. Yeah. No. Carter was a fighter pilot. He was an ace.
Mm-hmm.
When him and Rosalind met, he was going to go fight in World War II.
So we got Michigan and
Michigan and Navy. Okay. Let me think. I'm trying to walk backwards in my head based on presidents where they went to school. Stanford.
Stanford is one.
Okay. That's
John Elway,
3.
Herbert Hoover.
Okay.
Now these 2.
Well, you can't go too far back because they've only played American football since
No,
late 1800s.
And I'll tell you, all the last 2 have all happened in the last, say, 15 years.
Okay.
As far as Super Bowl.
As far as the quarterback.
Yeah, as far as the quarterback.
Yeah.
Illinois wouldn't have had a quarterback.
Texas
George never made it.
Texas Tech.
Nope.
I was trying to think of where Linden went, but
I'll give you another hint. Not Power 5 conference.
not Power 5 conference. Okay. That does.
Youngstown State.
Nope. No Penguins in the White House.
Let's see.
I forfeit my thoughts because I don't know.
Well, I've gotten 3 of the 5, so I mean, I'm not giving up on the other 2.
He's done pretty well so far.
Well, let's tell him in a pop quiz he's made a 60, so he's got a C.
He's a solid C, right in the meaty part of the curve.
It's not Harvard.
No.
No, I wouldn't think it'd be any Ivy League schools.
No.
So it's not Power 5, so that means we're into like...
If you give up, I'll tell you the...
Oh.
If you want the quarterback or the president.
Tennessee. There is a Tennessee president, right?
Yeah, but who won the Super Bowl?
Well, yeah, Peyton.
Peyton won the Super Bowl, and we had president out of Tennessee.
Who's the Tennessee quarterback?
Peyton's...
no, the University of Tennessee quarterback.
Nope, nobody ever went to Tennessee's been elected president.
Yeah, I was going to say. You'd be now you're thinking Andrew Jackson, but
he didn't go to Tennessee.
Yeah,
how do we know
he's
that?
from Tennessee.
How do we know that he wasn't online getting that degree?
All right.
Andrew Jackson was a Phoenix University guy.
And you said the last few years.
Southern New Hampshire.
All right, so that would mean... All right, so we already said Brady. I said Texas Tech because that's Mahomes, but he didn't.
No.
And you said no.
And nobody said the University of Alabama.
Super Bowl winning quarterback, though. But Alabama doesn't have a president. Yeah. Oh my God! Give me a. I got 3 of the 5. Give me a hint on the other one.
You want the quarterback or the president?
Give me the quarterback. No, give me the president.
Give me the president. Joe Biden.
Oh, Delaware.
Yeah. Who's the quarterback?
Joe Flacco.
Yeah, Joe Flacco.
All right. And give me the quarterback on the other one.
I'd rather give you the president.
Give me the president. All right, give me the president.
Benjamin Harrison.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I've told before.
Good Lord, I didn't think I had to go that far back. Golly.
Well, tell me how far back he is.
You don't have to go back that far.
Is he 30s?
No, Benjamin Harrison's back into the 1800s.
1880s.
Yeah, 1880s.
What a silly quiz we're taking.
I think it's a cool question.
Yeah, no, who's the quarterback?
Ben Roethlisberger.
Miami of Ohio?
Miami of Ohio.
Wow, no, I would not have ever thought.
Yeah.
No, I would have not. I mean, trust me, and I know a crap ton of weird presidential facts, but, you know.
Here's another one. Michigan, Miami of Ohio, Navy, Stanford, Delaware.
Yeah. Michigan was a no-brainer because I thought of Ford immediately.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously you're thinking Stanford, the reason I thought Stanford was because of, so many presidents are lawyers.
Yeah.
So Stanford was why I thought that.
I figured you'd get Navy right off the bat.
Well, Navy because of Staubach, but yeah, and I mean, wow, I would not have thought Miami of Ohio. That is golly, that's obscure.
Yeah,
absolutely obscure.
Any bonus points for somebody that got a 0?
You get a firm pat on the back and attaboy. How to get that 1?
Well, we got a pretty big ball game this weekend, and I'm gonna say something.
XFL?
I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna blow y'all's minds, and it pains me to admit this. And I'm not gonna say that I'm rooting for them, but I would much rather see the Eagles win a Super Bowl as I had see the Chiefs win. I'm just going to be honest. I'm tired of them at this point.
Already? And you don't want to go see them be a Steelers or
I don't.
Niners?
I don't.
But
this will be the 3rd one they've been to. I'm already tired of them. And I'll be honest with you, as much as I dislike the Eagles, you cannot not respect, and y'all know, y'all have heard me say this very thing for years. You cannot not respect how good they are at finding lumps of coal that turns into diamonds in the draft, and they've done it for years.
And let me say this too. This is the part of the game that I'm curious to whether the Chiefs can handle is that front four for.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 4 guys that are in double-digit sacks.
Yep.
When do you hear numbers like that?
You got to go back to the 80s.
I'm thinking you might go back. Did they record sacks? They did with the Vikings.
The Purple People Eaters,
or the Steelers front four.
That Steelers front four was Cowboys. They started
somewhere in there.
You took the words right out of my mouth, because this game to me is down to the Kansas City offensive line
versus the Philly defense.
And now here's the thing: we do know that Mahomes is an acrobat back there, but I was listening.
But he's also hurt.
His numbers go way down when he's touched.
Yeah, he's like Brady. He don't like being knocked around.
And this front four,
they're going to touch him.
Probably hell to keep out of there.
Especially on one ankle that's still not going to be 100%.
Yep.
And I'm sure he's taking treatment, and he'll probably take more treatment before the game. And I'm wondering about this, too. Give me after halftime when he's been sitting there for 45 minutes.
Oh, yeah, for that, yeah.
Halftime. And I'm sure
and everything's stiffened up.
And I'm sure he'll be getting some treatment trying to keep it loose. But second half, I mean that may be close for a while, and then I think that the Eagles may start getting to him.
If you watch,
and I don't want to change the subject, but why does the NFL not believe that a real live bona fide country star can't carry the Super Bowl?
Oh, I agree.
Because they ain't even bothered to ask them.
Gene Watson's number should be on speed dial.
No,
they don't even ask them. What makes them think that a country superstar can't carry that?
The fact that Garth
Watson and Janie Fricke put him on stage right
now.
The
fact that Garth has never been asked to do a Super Bowl halftime show still pains me.
Well, now, wait a minute. I thought you had to ask the NFL now and basically say,
now you have to pay. You have to pay to do it. Taylor Swift paid a crap ton last year to do it.
Yeah.
Like $1.7 million or something. I mean,
he could afford it if he wanted,
Garth
he wanted to drop it.
I mean, I remember an interview with him 20 years ago when he said his grandchildren's grandchildren would never have to worry about money, and that was 20 years ago. I mean, but I just, getting back to the game for a second, if you watched Philly in the NFC Championship game, there was no point of that game that it was ever in question.
Yeah, a little bit of an unfair situation that took place there. I don't think it would have been as ugly had they.
Oh, I do.
But this, you got 2 number ones, and this is what we want to see: 2 number ones meet. Both of them had that kind of dominance on each side of their conference this year. I think a lot of people thought early on that the Bills would be there, but they found a way not to do it. And then the Bengals looked hot coming down the stretch, and they didn't make it. But I really think the physicality part of the Eagles is going to be difficult for the Chiefs to overcome.
Yeah, and look, the Chiefs' defensive line has been playing really well. Chris Jones and Frank Clark, they're getting after the quarterback too, but Philly's offensive line is probably the best in the league.
Well, because Philadelphia does something, and it's not just on the offensive line, it is in that entire football team. They do something that the rest of the league a lot of times just does not do. Philadelphia gets everything they can get out of somebody, and then they say, see you later. We don't need you anymore. We're going to put somebody younger in your spot now, and we're just going to keep churning talent. We're not going to pay premium money for anybody that we don't have to pay premium money for, because there's a dime a dozen out there.
Right.
And they've done that masterfully. And honestly, I'm telling y'all, you can see the pain in my eyes to say these words.
Now listen, I don't know Philadelphia either, and that's mostly because it's the city that the Braves have to face against too, and that's
Cowboys' biggest rivalry,
and Cowboys as well. And we don't have to get on this thing, but what is Jerry talking about when he's trying to throw the Phillies under the bus that they've gone all in for 1 year? They got first-round draft picks backed up.
They do.
Everybody's not as silly in football as he is.
You got a quarterback in Jalen Hurts that you got at least another 5 or 6 years out of. I think
he thinks he thinks people are not as smart at football as he is.
Well, Jerry's old as hell, and he's basically the modern day Al Davis at this point. But my thing with if you look at what Philly did this year, the NFC East, as much as in the last 10, 12 years people have liked to make fun of that conference or that division, if that ain't the best division in football right now,
it wasn't 3 or 4 years ago.
By God, it is right now.
It is right now.
The only losses that Philly had this year were to the Cowboys and to the Commanders.
Yeah.
And then they slipped up one other time they lost to the Giants. So basically they had 3 division losses.
Well, and keep in mind, 2 of those 3 losses Hurts was out of the game.
Right.
So and we don't.
They could very easily be sitting here 16-1.
Yeah, they probably would have been.
I mean, if that ain't strong,
yeah, it's strong.
I mean, and that's. I could write a book on all the dumbass moves the Cowboys have made in the last 25 years, and we'd be sitting here for 3 days, me griping about it because it's moves aplenty, and I love my daughter to death, and she has become the biggest Cowboys fan, and it's fun for me as a parent to watch that. But it's also a little disheartening sometimes because sometimes she sees with blue and silver eyes instead of being able to see what I keep trying to tell her. Like, listen, we're not going to win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott unless he has just unmissable talent around him. I mean, he's got to have guys that he can, flip it to and they can run 100 yards, like Tony Pollard. But we Jerry is like Daniel Snyder was for a long time. He's become that in his old age. He's a toy collector. I like the names because I see the name going on the back of a jersey and knowing that I'm going to sell 100,000 of those jerseys. I don't look at that guy's long in the tooth and 10 years too far down the road. The exact reason why they're even entertaining the thought of signing OBJ in the offseason, it doesn't make a damn bit of sense any way, shape, form, or fashion.
Oh, yeah.
But,
he's probably already called Tom Brady once or twice just to make sure.
Well, I will say this, and this is another person that I can't stand. But I'm telling you right now, if they don't at least make a phone call to Aaron Rodgers and be like, hey, 2 years? Would you come play for 2 years?
Well, and he's sitting out there at $50-something million owed to him, and just say, would you come and would you consider less to be somewhere else
to win a Super Bowl?
Would you do it?
You put Aaron Rodgers behind that Cowboys offensive line with what that team has around them, with his ability to just pull crap out of his behind
and not make crucial mistakes.
Yeah.
that Dak continuously doing for him. Continuously putting them in a bad spot.
Yep. Well, you can't, as an offense, you can't continually hand the ball to a 2-yard or 2-yard halfback that goes 2 yards and falls down every time he touches the football.
And you would think of the money you got in him.
And you're paying him. Yes, somebody, I saw on one of the fan sites the other day, like, well, Zeke said he'd be willing to take less money. Well, yeah, because he wants to keep a job. Yeah. Ain't nobody in the NFL going to sign him for no reason other than to sell jerseys. Why do you think Emmitt Smith wound up in Arizona? That's 2 years' worth of jersey sales that you were going to get by having him there. We've seen it happen a million times over, but I think this will be. I don't think this is going to be the competitive Super Bowl that people think it is. I think it's going to be close for about a quarter and a half, and I think Philly just has too much, and I think they are. I think they are stoked and ready.
Okay, I there's a side of me that agreed with everything you had to say. I really do. I think they are the more physical of the two teams. What I think is that Mahomes works his magic and they win.
He's got to.
That's what I think, and it will take him to do that.
I think they got to make sure that they can keep him off his back.
I agree.
I mean, Scott made the great point right there. He's on a bum wheel already, and they got to make sure they can keep him upright.
Well, I think he does work his.
And I think Kelce may be the one that you want to take away because with that bad ankle, I don't know that he can plant it and throw down the field the way he could on two good legs.
Absolutely. They talk about. I hear the talking experts talk about how Kelsey runs these great routes. I'm thinking, I don't know that he runs these great routes. He's always open. I mean, why do the other teams not put two on him to take away their biggest target?
It's just it's the old Jason Witten route.
Yeah,
just find the soft spot in the zone and sit down.
I don't know how much great route running that is.
I think Kansas City.
He's better with the ball after than Witten was.
Kansas City's going to be able to get some yards on some passes downfield. It just depends on,
Little yak.
Yeah, but I mean, he's going to have to be able to move some in the pocket.
Yeah,
and I don't know if he's going to be able to or not.
And the year they lost it, when his offensive line didn't block for him, and he ran for his life the whole night.
Oh my God, against Tampa Bay, yeah.
I don't know that Tampa Bay defense is this Phillies defense.
No,
I think it's stronger.
That Tampa defense had two really big presence in the middle because they had Jason Pierre-Paul and Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah. And Sue was getting a little late in his years, too.
But when you take an old man like that who's been playing their entire career for terrible teams and you put him in a Super Bowl, they want that ring.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
this is my one shot.
This is I ain't ever gonna get here again. By golly, I'm gonna give it everything I got this one time.
All right, now it comes to if you do you not give Andy Reid the edge in this ball game?
I mean, experience.
I don't think that they're going to go, and this is my personal take. I don't think that the second coming of the next greatest quarterback, being Mahomes, is going to go to 3 and only come out with 1 win. So I think he gets his second win.
And I don't think this is, and I mean, let's be honest. I don't think this is his last time there. We could. Realistically, we could literally be sitting here 1 year from now talking about this exact same game again.
Could be these same two teams. It doesn't usually work out that way.
And we ain't had last Super Bowl rematch we had was Cowboys-Bills back-to-back? 93 and 92 and 93.
Well, it hasn't been working out that way in a long stretch now, but if these two teams could stay intact, you could
and they stay healthy,
you could probably see them.
I just want to see more Andy Reid commercials.
Oh, I love the one where he's drawing
the bottom of this.
The one where he's drawing the mustaches, man. That is that's as good.
But I'm like you. Cowboys should pick up the phone and call Aaron Rodgers. If he jerks them around, he jerks them around, and he might just do.
All he can do is say no. But I'm telling you, it would not surprise me. I mean, if they made,
because I think Rodgers wants out of Green Bay. I think he does. I think he really wants away from a team that hasn't done enough of putting people out there. Not that the Cowboys have done enough either, but I think it's somewhere different in Green Bay.
But I mean, obviously this is one of those dream scenarios. But if he steps in right now, you got the offensive line in front of him that he's never had. You got Gallup, you got CeeDee Lamb, you got those two really good tight ends. They may bring T.Y. Hilton back before it's all said and done. If the Cowboys were serious, you make one of those Philly-type moves where you make 2 big moves in the offseason and you hang it all for 1 season. You go out and you get Rodgers, and you go out and you get OBJ, and you see what happens. Because that defense is good, and if you can keep that defense off the field where they're fresh every time they walk out there, if Micah Parsons is walking out there with a fresh head of steam every time he takes the field, he's going to get to the quarterback.
It's absolutely easy to pick out which side of the ball is letting them down, and it's the offensive side of the ball. So if you can upgrade, and one of the biggest things about that offensive side of the ball is that in big games, your $40-something million quarterback doesn't play like that. Yeah. And we said this back when they were going to give him that kind of money. We said, well, it's overpaying, but it's where else were they going to go at the moment?
Yeah.
Where else were they going to go at the moment and get a guy that had been playing? They didn't know where to go, so they were kind of stuck with giving him that $40 million.
Yeah, you didn't have any choice. I mean, you didn't have anything else. Well, guys, this has been a hard and fast hour. I always enjoy it when we get into something.
You're picking Kansas City.
I'm picking Kansas City.
You're picking Philly.
I'm picking Philly.
I'm picking Philly.
I just can't. I mean, it kills me to do it, but I can't pick against them.
Yeah.
I just can't pick against them.
That's part of the reason I don't.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned about, like I said, that pass rush getting to a less than 100% Patrick Mahomes.
And I promise you, if they get to him, they're going to knock the pee out of him because they're going to try to knock him out of that game.
Well, they would know. They would know if they could make that exit the field.
Oh.
Our chances are good.
Yep.
Chad Henne becomes Nick Foltz.
There you go. Well, guys, we appreciate you all listening in with us tonight. Obviously, any time that we can sit and talk baseball history for 30 minutes the way we did, we are going to do something like that. So I hope you enjoyed this kind of walk down memory lane and this kind of
first on the show tonight.
This kind of do what?
I had a first on the show tonight.
What's that?
Well, some of you might have heard.
Oh yeah, yeah, we did. I mean, yeah. I'll still apologize for that, but y'all, we love you. We'll be back next week. Probably back to our Wednesday time slot. Well, I say that, but those of you listening on podcasts, I don't know what time you listen to us. You could be sitting on the toilet at 3 a.m. listening to us for all I care.
That's good listening.
But we'll be back. You might be in serious talk. But we'll be back sometime next week, guys. So we love you. Thanks to all the All-Star sponsors that make it possible for us to be with you, and we'll catch you guys later.